Thank you both for being here. Thanks to all of you for staying. I'll start with a question for Mathieu. If you could just tell us about the source. We see in the credits that it's based on a play, but I actually don't know much about this play. Like, is this a known produced play, or how did you find this material?
Claudine Galéa wrote this play 17 years ago.
Okay.
And it was never performed. Never. And a friend, that's why it's the first name for the remerciement, to say thank you at the end. C'est Laurent Zisserman, he wanted to mount that play, and he didn't. And he just gave me this book, like saying goodbye to something, getting rid of something. And he gave me this, it's more a text than a play. It's not really written exactly as a play. It plays on the graphic voices that enter each other. The little boy, for instance, only express himself through songs or poems. And Claudine is somebody that, yes, is often staged in France. And she wrote also for children. Okay. The first question I asked her when I met her is, I was sure of that when reading it, but was, this is not a real story. And yes, it wasn't a real story. Okay. Because then the film wouldn't have been possible. And because what I was attracted was the gesture of imagination. That's really what attracted me.
How close is the script and I guess the film to this play? Because I was surprised to hear that this was a play, because what I see on screen is so cinematic for me, because I feel like this is cinema. I think just manipulations of time and space, playing with sound and image. I mean, it's just like what gives this film its meaning and its power. I mean, that to me is cinema. So I'm just wondering, what did that text look like?
Claudine invented her trick, Clarisse's trick, that is the inversion. If I say to myself that I left, that means that maybe they stayed. It's so simple. It's like a mythological trick. And I think that is really where I felt something, as you say, with cinema could be possible. Something that then had to do with phantoms, with imagination, with the state of projection, like you watching a screen, knowing it's not true, but you believed in it, so it's true. And that's exactly what Clarisse and Vicky are doing, but it's Clarisse who's doing it. And Vicky Clarisse is doing the film. All the images.
Right. She's directing in a way.
Mm.
Yeah.
She's directing, she has a lot of humor. That was really one of the things we felt because we had the chance to film in 3 times because of the story.
Because of the seasons.
We needed the mountain in spring and the mountain with the snow. So it was separated by 6 months each time, and we would edit with François Gédigier and see each other again with the crew, with everybody. And so things had happened in our lives. And last time we had the 3rd shooting, it was really, let's forget this story about you losing your family. This is I'm sick of it. Let's have some fun now. And so the way my job was just to try to, as you say, it was to kill theater.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So kill words, in fact. The music. Mm. It's almost a silent film, in fact. It's just trying to just propose gestures and music.
Yeah. Vicky, I'd love to hear your perspective of it. I mean, you just watched the film again with the audience tonight, and I'm wondering what, just was that watching the film, is that close to your experience of making the film, reading the text? Because it's such a fragmentary piece, I can imagine. And you said, Mathieu was just saying you had 3 different shoots. So I'm just wondering about, this idea of holding this piece together is so much, what you do in this film. And I'm just wondering how watching it compares to your recollection of making it and reading it.
You asked me if watching the film was like making the film.
Did you expect?
And so I almost cannot speak, because watching the film now for the second time was like seeing it the first time, because the first time we were in Cannes and it was I was probably too nervous. And you are exactly right. I feel like making the film. And I almost cannot answer, but that's interesting you say it, because you just said how I feel.
Mathieu, is the finished film close to your script, or did you work a lot with your editor to find the form?
It was very written. I was even very proud, because there was a shift at the end. It wasn't too difficult to find money. For once I was able to say a story. It was incredible. And in Claudine's text, there is, she calls it a renversement, a sort of and the script was written like that only at the end, okay, this woman didn't leave, they left her. And it was only at the end, and it was written like that. And we started to shoot like that. And editing with François, we felt quite quickly that we were too far from her. It shouldn't be us, François, the crew making the film. It had to be her making the film. So what we did is we advanced, we put it much earlier. And in fact, everything is said very quickly. But, and that's where it was fascinating, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to accept it. And that's exactly the trick, the thing that she found, to be able to wait for the spring. Because if you put it in order, it's an accident in the winter, and she has to wait for the spring. How to make this time quicker. And so that's the main thing, is to the scene in the snow with les sauveteurs, how do you say sauveteurs, people who save people in the mountain, that came much earlier, and And then that's where we found that we then were very close to her.
Did you have Vicky in mind when you were writing this?
Yes. After 2 days, when I took Claudine's text and started to try to find where there would be cinema in it, yes, Vicky appeared. Yes.
Tell us why.
And and then it's the chance of life, you know, it's signs like that. I live in Brittany, and the phone doesn't work inside the house, so you have to go because the walls are very... And so you go outside under the rain, of course, and I found on internet that she had an agent in France, and the guy answers. And she was supposed to be in Paris 3 weeks later. And so we met. And I only could give Vicky the book. There was no script. And I think we totally forgot to say to each other, I'll tell you if I want to do it, or we skipped that thing. And then and then Vicky just took the tears, and took the tears that she couldn't express often in the scenes, because that's not really what we wanted to film. We did film things that were terrible and that are not in the film. Something that had to do with it's Vicky that told me that once the film was finished, you know, when we have to talk about it, it's always artificial to talk about. But when you said about she needed to go to craziness, not to become crazy. And of course we had tried something, but it wasn't well written.
Yeah, I think what I said is something like, sometimes you have to accept the crazy to not go crazy, you know. And I think that's what she's doing. She's accepting to open a door and go next door to this other room that we all know is there, but we are afraid of, and she goes there in order not to go crazy here from pain.
Coming back to Mathieu, you said you had Vicky in mind from close to the very beginning. Was there a particular role of hers or something that made you decide?
Yes, it's the first time I saw her in my life is as a waitress passing that door. And I know her. That's all. And it's, you know, and that happens often. Yeah. No, that doesn't happen often. Yes, in Phantom Thread, of course. And what?
No, just you did.
Yeah.
Just making sure that you mentioned
that. Yeah. No, not in real life, but in real life, we all imagine the life of waiters and waitresses a lot. No, it's true. It's true. Or in a bus, the life of an old man, and he has a face that seems very sad or very angry. So you imagine things, and maybe you're totally wrong about that person. And that was my feeling when I saw Vicky pass that door and order and take the order of Daniel Day-Lewis. Then I don't really remember. Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if it's different for directors who are also actors to direct actors. and I wonder if both of you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I think yes. Probably, most certainly, yes. It would be weird if it would be the same. But I try to think of like how in this movie. So for one, we didn't have to speak, but that also only speaks for Mathieu. And maybe if he wasn't an actor, he would have that same kind of sensitivity, or like, again, you know, like this little bit of craziness, or like just it's okay to not talk. You know, maybe I know what you mean, and you know, just connect on a different, deeper level, and that's what we did. But I do think, being an actor, he's very sensitive and can feel really where I am at what moment. But I would really say, because that's what you would expect as an answer. Yes, as an actor, when it's an actor, I feel the difference. I feel the difference as an audience, actually, I must say, tonight, because I feel I saw the film the first time, and I saw someone who made a beautiful, beautiful poem where every word spoken, it's not like words, it's not text, it's like people speaking poetry. And like, I don't know if you heard the beautiful music, and it's all live, and if you can imagine how it felt to be in that house, see these children play piano, I was really crying every day just because of the beauty. And the beauty of someone, you know, saying, let's all come together and filling this house with art in every sense. There was art in every corner of that house. It was the music, it was the colors, it was the sounds, it was the people talking, like how they were looking at one another. I felt so blessed to be part of that family and in that house, and that is him. So him being the person and I think it's because, you know, many directors have a very big ego, and I feel that he doesn't. So I don't know if it's because he's an actor, but I would say there's a big positive difference to most directors.
Yeah, it's the music, the fact that it had to be real pianists. The music is live. Huh? Juliette and Anne-Sophie, the two girls, really play the piano. It was amazing.
Was the piano part of the original text, or did you add that?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I should go back to no, but everything is in Claudine's text. That's always very strange. When you go back and you see Martha Argerich is named. The piano, of course, as this tool that the mother can use to communicate with her daughter. The fact that she has less imagination with the boy, doesn't really know how to do with it. It's almost like an ad, no, what she invents. That's why it's like, you know, to invent a perfect father that makes
Treehouse.
Les cabanes, comment
Treehouse.
Tree houses. It's a cliché, no? But everything was there. The piano. Then the fact that this person invents her own road movie, yes. But it's a road movie that stops. But she does invent her. So with Christophe Bocan, the DOP, yes, there was this pleasure to aesthetically. I always like that to imagine that the characters saw too many films, and for me, she had seen Rain People from Francis Ford Coppola. Where it's a film from '69, a beautiful film with Shirley Knight and James Caan, and it's a woman that leaves a house like that, and that's the way also Vicky works. For instance, of course, when we meet you want to be sure that the person feels that you have worked. So you give reference, you know. You give books, you give films, and I had gave to Vicky Rain People. And it's only once the film was totally finished that she told me, I just looked at Rain People. I preferred to remember just how you were talking about it. I didn't need to see it. And that's the freedom, the fact that Vicky will always bring something that is paper and just go into into tears, into a voyage that really was tough.
On the subject of the idea of this as a road movie, can you talk about the car, which has its own credit?
That's why she's in red.
Yes.
It has never been filmed. It's the first time it's filmed. It was only filmed in an ad for AMC Pacer Break. And I'm not talking about Pacer X that has been in Meyer's films, Wayne's World or anything. You see the AMC, but not that one. Okay, a woman leaves a house with a car. The pleasure to film a car. Okay, modern car, difficult. So how to justify the fact that it could be an old car? And I remember with the first AD with Dylan when we were searching for a car, and because of course he was saying, but why does she have a car like that? I mean, it's too cinema. I mean, why? And that's where we found this thing that, in fact, it was the car of Marc, of Arieh, and the discotheque scene with the snow on her already. And then we could film this car. And the car became a way, like a space trip, because Marc brought the kids to the mountain for their last trip with that car. So that's where she can maybe, you know, like Star Trek, try to and put the antenna and put old cassettes, and maybe she can communicate with them. She has a lot of, the character has a lot of humor again. Really, it had to be a game. The fact that she is in an invention that is erotic, funny, realistic. That's why there is also there's the car, but the other influence was this incredible painter who died 1.5 years ago, Robert Beschler, who came from the West Coast, and all his life he painted cars and his family. And that was a gesture that I found very strange, because his family was in his house, no? But no, he preferred to be in the basement and spend 6 months redoing something, doing something, and that was very close to what she is doing. And again, with the sound engineer, with Christophe Bocan, with the accessoire, the prop person, and everybody, it was to be hyper-realist. That's what is real, and that is not real would never be mentioned, the difference, because I think that in the moments of pain, you know, even when you have a love split, it's a delirium. It's a delirium where it doesn't seem to have any difference.
So in the shooting, you also do not, there's no difference for you? Or do you talk about like, this is real, this is less real? Or
Yes, we do talk.
Yeah.
Not to Vicky, but for the crew, yes.
Okay. All right.
We knew what we were doing. That's why we could write at the last moment, because I have this sickness of giving the pages in the morning.
Right. But even then, there are different ways in which it's not real, right? There's different registers and degrees of reality in the film. So all that is clearly mapped out for you and your crew, or no?
So yeah and no, because remember, because of the 3 times we shot, there were moments in the beginning where we would do scenes. Well, I remember getting this direction from you, so that the scene could technically later then be taken as a scene for the end or for the beginning. So I had to adapt my acting to something that could
In between? Or both?
like float, that wouldn't be too. And that was actually the only really hard thing to play, I find.
Would it be after or
Yeah.
before the revelation is not, it's too strong words, because the film doesn't work on a secret, in fact. It's not usual suspect, where, but yes, that was something that we started to feel during the second shooting.
Yeah.
That the script with this ending where you would ta-ta-ta, no, in fact, people, you knew, but you didn't know that you knew. That was the thing that was difficult for Vicky, is that, for instance, the opening of the film, as we had imagined, it's a shot that is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I do remember being lost and thinking, oh, now I'm wearing these shoes and they're supposed to be for when I'm working, but when is she working now? And, and then we even changed the idea of working, not working. So that's what you felt.
Yeah. All right, I think we can take a few questions from the audience. We'll start with you. Question, I'll just quickly repeat in case people didn't hear, is about the Polaroid scene that you see at the beginning and also the end. I guess the significance of that scene and how it relates to how you worked with editing.
That is thanks to Christophe Bocan, the DOP, because the first thing that we did is the family spent one day in the house to take photographs so that the past would exist. And so they would take photos of themselves, I would take photo, and Christophe had this Polaroid, and he would take photos, and then he would put the photos on outside in the garden on a table, and after a moment, there was those photos in like that, and that's how the scene arrived. And I remembered that. Then it clicked on something when I was a little boy in the States, because I grew up in the States from between 5 and 8 years old, and there was this game called Memory. And of course, memory, there was something to do. And that's why she does pairs, and I knew it would be somewhere in the film. And the scene wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be a real scene with, again, the phantoms that are so real around the table and saying, when does mother will come back? I don't think she's going to come back. What about selling the house? And it was the three. And I felt we had enough of them. Now we wanted to be with her. And in the morning, in fact, those dialogues, what about if you would say them to yourself? And then, I don't know, I connected with, that's where the Polaroid could arrive. So those are the things that happen in the morning. Those court-circuit, like electricity. And then that's where when Vicky says we don't need to talk, she just, and she's hungry, and it's a good, so it's a good idea. It's not an idea. It's not an idea, but she can play with it. And then it wasn't supposed to be the opening shot, but when François put that, it never disappeared. It always stayed as an opening shot. Yeah, and then at the end, it came back because the film has a lot of boucle around. Yeah, that's how. The
question is about directing the children and whether they knew they were dead.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
No, but it was a very important question. Yes. That was one of my fright. Who would be the parents who would accept that their child plays dead children? Yes, of course. I first talked to the parents. We were very lucky because the parents were extraordinary. That helps a lot. And then the children, you don't need to explain, they understand. No? And they, Sacha, the little boy, loves to play. And for instance, the scene in the bathtub, that was for us very violent. I try always to do maybe one take, you know, if it's possible, for those sort of things. He just popped out when it was finished and said, "Oh, can I do another one? Can I do another one?" So it was a game. It was a game. And then, and Sophie, she had to deal with music, with learning the pieces. So that helps also. And now they are big.
And they really had a very good energy. So whenever they were doing these scenes without me, and it was actually one of the weirdest experiences for me. I mean, because they were together with the team, they had like full days of laughter and sunshine, and it was only if my shadow would pass, you know, like, and I wouldn't talk to anyone because, you know, yeah. So they were allowed to forget, but I could never forget. So in a way, it separated me often from everyone on the set. So, but observing, I remember seeing a lot of fun, and I mean, they had a really, really good time.
And Arieh is a man that attracts a lot. The children love him.
Yeah.
He's extraordinary with children. And that was really beautiful. It was even sometimes, for the real parents, a bit, they wanted to stay with Arieh.
Yeah.
With their false father. It was. And yes, and yeah, with Vicky, it remembers this moment where you were doing the voice in another room when there is the breakfast with the crepe, and the voice of Vicky enters the head of her man, and you. So Vicky was in another room with a mic, and she could see the images. And she wasn't supposed to be that moved and that crying. It was, But you told me it was because you could see them and not touch them. You were separated from them.
Yeah, or just, I mean, you just have to look at children or any person, and if I would tell you what you see is wrong and these people are not alive, you cry.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, that's what we said in the beginning. It doesn't need to be real. Like, we all know how it feels to just dream, or, you know.
Yeah.
So it didn't need to be real for me to look at something and cry.
And cry and sing, because
And sing.
Gigi Kale is there.
Oh yeah, because I started singing it.
And that's how it became the song of the film, of Clarisse.
Yeah.
How were the piece of the music
Selected.
I played piano when I was a kid. I stopped piano. So first there are the classical things with what you start, and then there is what I would have loved to play. And there's even a scene that was Juliette, I mean, the Lucie grew even more, but we cut that out. She arrived at the age of 16, and there was a big, fiesta in the house, and she played even something else. But I was trying to imagine how the mother, because of course we know all that we get crazy as parents that when kids, the relationship we have with our kids playing an instrument. I mean, it's terrible how we project on them. And I thought that in this car, with time, thinking of how she would have been an extraordinary mother, she would have left her little girl free, and her little girl would have chosen things that are not in the program, and she would have gone to her own stuff, Schoenberg, and then Ligeti, and that's how there was this piece that is also a music that you can think is not composed music at the beginning. Yeah. That it's just, because it's only with the note A. It's only A's, pum, 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 everywhere. And that's how, taking possession of this instrument, that's how, and then there was Rameau arrived, because I had heard the extraordinary pianist Marcel Meyer, who was a pianist from the 30s, the 40s. Marcel is a woman, and she's one of the first who have played Rameau, not on clavecin, but on piano. And she has this sort of energy. And I wanted to choose a music where it's always the same thing, like if she was stuck in her head. She couldn't go further. So that's why it's La Gavotte, and it's Variation, doubles of the same theme. It's always the same theme, because there's something that is stuck, like the note, the keys that fall on A, and then it's the kid that plays A, and it's always the same. Something like a ritournelle. We say ritournelle. Something. It's not an earworm. It's not exactly that, but you see something that just. It's always the same thing. But that is written by Rameau, and is such an energy. And the last variation for the end credit has a sort of, she will be okay. She will be okay. She's leaving this house. It's going to be okay. That's the thing. That's exactly that. She does it so well. that the character, I mean, yeah, you just forget that it's not real. That's why even 6 months later, when Vicky, I saw the kitchen again, we had finished the scene. It was only supposed to be the voice. And I saw the kitchen, and I thought that's where she invented all that, alone in that kitchen. And I said to Vicky, come, look. And Vicky learned with the sound the scene that we had edited, and she played alone in the kitchen. And that's why there is this moment where she's alone in the kitchen, and it's
that, I mean, okay, we also need to go home, but that's actually an interesting question, because of I myself often think of the movie, and today for the first time I felt I really understood it, whatever is understanding. But so, okay, but this thing of like, but what is, are they really talking? Is it telepathy? Or is it her inventing? And we want to have this feeling of like, oh, now I know what's going on. Oh, yeah, this is a different voice now. Like in writing, you have like letters like this, and then we have those that go like this. So we know, oh, this is, you know, someone else talking. And when we started the movie really early on, I felt like you with him. I was like, I never knew what he was really talking about, but I mean, this is now to an extreme, but I must say it has something to it, because you're so inhibited, like inhabité, by what you feel and think, that like when you talk to me, it's like there's so much I feel from what you say, but my brain tries to follow. Then really early on I decided I would not try to follow. So whenever he would come with a new idea and say, oh, can you not talk in this kitchen, and it wasn't planned, I wouldn't even say yes or no. I would just sit down and do it, you know? Because I had passed the point of the normal consuming brain of like information is, and then I have to, and then I give it on, you know? I don't know where I was, but I was in a different zone, which is very close to poetry, I feel. Like, so it was like performing arts really every day, and it's really the editing that came in later by François that makes it a movie in a way. But then also I think you know more than you say you do, but I think the editing is then the movie.
Yes. It is. And that's why I knew the film would be fragmented. And that's why it was so important to film real moments, long shots, not pieces. And we would go for half an hour, 1 or 2 takes, and to grab life. That in the way it would be shot, not fragmented.
All right, we do have to wrap it up, but I want to thank you all for staying. And Vicky, Mathieu, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.